Hello, everybody, and welcome to Warrior Roundtable. I'm Bob Fitzgerald, and so much fun to talk about the history of basketball and a guy in Wilt Chamberlain that maybe made more history than almost anyone else who's ever played the game. Pleased to have almost an authority on Wilt Chamberlain, not only a teammate, but really a good personal friend of Wilt's. Al Attles, good to see you.
Good to see you, Bob. It's always a pleasure.
Jim Barnett had many shots blocked by Wilt Chamberlain. Good to see you too, Jim, as well.
I'm honored to be here on this show.
Now, this is going to be a lot of fun. Tell me about Wilt, the player, a little bit. I mean, just from an observer standpoint, to me, athletically, he did things big men maybe had never done in the game.
Well, I think I had a perspective that a lot of people didn't have, in the fact that I played with him, played against him, and coached against him. So I knew what he could do on a basketball floor, and it's just hard for people to fathom what we talk about when we say what he did. He did things that just defied description. I can remember plays that he made that when I would talk about him, people said, no, he couldn't have done that. And I'm telling you, it's something that I saw. He was just a great, great basketball player.
What was it like to play alongside a guy who averaged, 50 points a game in a season? He averaged 50.4. I mean, every night you go out, you think, like, how can we lose? This guy's going to get us 50.
Well, the thing I think that was most important about that is it put everything right on the table. If you have a player who can get you 50 points a night, you go to that player because that's the best chance at winning basketball games. But a lot of people try to discourage that type of thinking. I think in Wilt's case, it hurt him a little bit.
How so?
Well, because when he would score, people say, well, all he wants to do is shoot. He doesn't pass. He doesn't do any of those things. And so what he would do is he would be a little bit concerned that maybe his teammates were being upset. But the one thing that he found out early on, that his teammates were very, very happy that he was scoring the points, and it allowed us to maybe be in more ball games than not.
Well, he averaged 50.4 in 61-62. That's also the year, Bob, that he scored 100 points in a game in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And Al, you were in that game, and I've got it vividly in my memory here. You were 8 for 8, 1 for 1, and you scored 17. The night that he got 100, were you cognizant of that? Did you talk about it at halftime, or did you treat it like a no-hitter? No. You wouldn't want to say anything to the pitcher.
No, you have to understand he was averaging 50 points that year, and it was late in the season when we played New York and Hershey. And it's very simple. If you went to grammar school and you had arithmetic, you knew if you were averaging 50 points a game and you got 30 tonight, in order to make it work tomorrow, you had to get 70. So we never thought about it. And not until late in the ball game, when Dave Zinkoff, who you remember was doing the game, he started calling every point after that. And he would say, and that's 82, and that's 83.
Oh,
well, then we became cognizant that he had a chance, because up until that time, I played in the game where I think he got 79 or 80, and we lost to the Lakers in a triple overtime. And the reason I remember that is West scored against me in the only basket, because Elgin scored every point for them in the 3 overtimes, and Wilt scored every point for us. So
what he's telling me, Bob, is he must have had 0 the game before to get, to get his average, to get 100. He was scoreless.
Well, in baseball, they talk about a 5-tool player, and all the skills. So if you're breaking down Wilt to someone who had never seen him play, this guy could run.
Right.
He was huge.
Yes.
He was athletic. He could shoot the ball because the fadeaway bank shot was in part of his repertoire. Could he handle the basketball?
Well, he played with the Trotters. And if you play with the Trotters, you learn. He could go through the reams and he could do some things, but he didn't do them in the regular season, during the regular games, but he could handle the ball. And by the fact that he led the league in assists later on, showed he could pass the basketball. So Wilt had all the tools of any player. He didn't display them all the time because he was asked to do other things.
Was he as good, Jim, do you think, if he had been 6'4"? Would we have heard of Wilt Chamberlain? Because to me, I think his gift is that he would have been a great basketball player no matter the size. His size, he used it, but he could have dunked on people repeatedly. He could have been a Shaquille O'Neal or a big, bulky guy inside. And I see so much of the video and so many of the stories are of his skill level and the size. Maybe the first guy with that combination ever in the history of the game.
Yeah, I think with his competitive spirit that he had, that's the one thing about Wilt. Wilt did not like to lose. He always wanted to win. So if he'd have been 6'4", 6'5", or 6'6", I think he would have had the determination. He probably would have had more of that killer instinct also to dunk the ball and destroy people. Because of his size, I think he really held back most of the time and didn't try to dominate with his physical body. And I thought, quite frankly, that he was more of a finesse player than a power player. And yet, when he did turn on the power and exert that physical presence, he was unstoppable.
Now, Alvin, it seems that in all of sports, you're measured against your greatest competitor, whether it's Ali and Frazier. The knock maybe even on Michael Jordan is that he had no peer that was his equal. But Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, did that bring out the best in Wilt? Did that bring out the best in Russell? Was that why we saw such great basketball?
Absolutely. When you talk to Wilt, he spoke of his most memorable feats. A lot of people would think it was the 100-point game. A lot of people would think it was averaging 50 points. No. His most memorable and the thing that he was most proud of is the 55 rebounds he got in the game against the Boston Celtics and Bill Russell. So I think that tells you a little bit about who the man was, because most of us think about what? How many points we score, or how many assists we have, or whatever. But he thought about the rebounds, and I think that shows the kind of man he was.
Yeah, he did that in November of 1960. So, you know, his second year in the league. 55 rebounds. That to me is incredible because, you know, against Bill Russell, they were the two greatest rebounders in the history of the game. And you know, Wilt averaged just under 23 rebounds a game, and one year he averaged 27.2 rebounds per game. And Russell, you know, beat him in those championships. But to go against Bill Russell, the great defender, and get 55 rebounds, you know, so people say, well, he probably, you know, they didn't have the big centers, they didn't have the good ones in those days. He wouldn't do that today. Yeah, he did it against Bill Russell. It's documented. It's there.
But put your coaching hat on as well as the teammate and friend hat. No discussion of Wilt Chamberlain, and unfortunately we never talk about the great things about someone until they've passed, but no discussion is complete without free throw shooting. The greatest scorer maybe in the history of the game, and he had a 50% free thrower from the line. And you hear stories of he was a great practice free throw shooter. He could do it. Was it mental? Was it physical? What's, you know, you saw a lot of it. Give me an observation.
I think it had to be a combination. I think mental first, then physical. Because I spoke to his sister, and she saw him from grade school, and he would make free throws. I remember they used to have drills. We used to have drills when we were in Philadelphia. And at the end of practice, you'd shoot 10 free throws, and whoever made the most would win a Coke or whatever. And we had Arizin, we had Gola, we had Rogers, we had Masheri. My second year, we had Masheri, and some pretty good free throw shooters. And Wilt would knock down 7 out of 10. Now, you know, 70% might not be a great percentage now, but back then, 70 was pretty good, and particularly for Wilt. Then he bulked up with the weights, and I think he lost a little bit of his touch. And that's when he was a little too strong, because people say he's shooting underhand, he should get further back, he should get up on the side. And I think that's what happened to him. I thought that, and then it became psychological.
Well, his strength, you know, it just kind of reminds me. My first year was with the Celtics, and I saw the matchups against Bill Russell a lot in those days, only 10 teams in the league. But what reminds me, when you said strength, one time in a game, Casey Jones tied him up. He was really upset. And so Wilt Chamberlain picked up the ball with Casey still attached. And he picked it up with his arms extended, brought it to his chest, and threw a two-handed chest pass with Casey still on the ball. That's how strong he was.
I don't think anyone who knows the game of basketball could possibly, in my mind, ever pick anyone other than Wilt Chamberlain as the greatest all-around center to play the game of basketball. Bill Russell you would pick as far as the greatest impact on a team and their success as far as winning championships. But if you took all of the skills that are required to play the center position in the game of professional basketball, no one center could do as many things as Wilt did and do them so magnificently.